There's a moment many people reach later in life when the house is quiet, the day is slowed down, and you find yourself looking at something ordinary, a receipt on the table, a bill in the mail, a bank statement you didn't rush to open. And in that stillness, a small thought passes through. Not panic, not fear, just a quiet wondering. How did things get this complicated when all you ever wanted was a simple, peaceful life? You may recognize that moment. The feeling that you've done what you were supposed to do. You worked, you raised a family, you handled responsibilities, and yet there's this gentle awareness that money seems to slip through your fingers more easily now, even though your life feels smaller in some ways. Fewer places to go, fewer needs, at least on the surface. And you might ask yourself, without saying it out loud, why it doesn't feel easier than this. Some days you feel steady. Other days you catch yourself double-checking things you never used to think about. You pause a little longer before buying something. You replay decisions in your head, not because you're reckless, but because you care. You want to protect what you have. You want to feel secure without feeling trapped. You want to enjoy your days without that quiet tension sitting in the background. You might notice how often money thoughts show up at unexpected times, while standing in the kitchen, while watching television, while lying awake just before sleep. They don't arrive loudly. They arrive softly, almost politely, asking questions you're not sure how to answer. Am I doing okay? Am I being careful enough? Am I missing something simple? You've probably heard advice before. Lots of it. Loud advice. Confident advice. Advice that talks fast and uses big promises. And maybe you've learned to tune that out. Because at this stage of life, you're not looking for tricks. You're not looking to be pushed. You're looking for something that feels human. Something that respects where you are right now. Think about how different life feels compared to earlier years. Back then, saving money often meant sacrifice, saying no, waiting, enduring. Now it's less about building something new and more about preserving what brings you peace. It's about dignity, about not feeling foolish or anxious, about knowing that the way you live aligns with what truly matters to you. Have you noticed how many habits we carry without ever questioning them? Small routines, automatic choices. Things that once made sense but may no longer fit the life you're living today. You might still shop the same way you did years ago. You might still say yes out of habit. You might still equate spending with comfort, even when comfort now comes from quieter places. There's often a story behind every expense, a memory, a reason, a feeling. Sometimes spending is about convenience. Sometimes it's about avoiding discomfort. Sometimes it's about holding on to a version of ourselves we don't want to lose. None of that makes you careless. It makes you human. At some point, many people realize that saving money isn't really about money at all. It's about attention, about awareness, about noticing what actually adds value to your days and what simply drains your energy without giving much back. This realization doesn't arrive with fanfare. It arrives gently, often after a moment of fatigue or clarity or quiet honesty with yourself. You might ask yourself questions like these. Do I enjoy this, or am I just used to it? Does this make my life easier, or does it just keep me busy? Am I paying for comfort? Or am I paying to avoid feeling something? These are not questions that demand quick answers. They're questions that unfold over time. There's a subtle shift that happens when you stop thinking of saving as restriction and start seeing it as care. Care for your future self. Care for your sense of calm. Care for the freedom to make choices without pressure. When saving becomes an act of kindness rather than discipline, everything feels different. You may begin to notice how often simplicity brings relief. Cooking a familiar meal instead of chasing something new, staying in instead of going out, wearing what already feels comfortable instead of buying what's advertised as better. These moments don't feel like loss. They feel like coming home to yourself. Some habits quietly support you without asking much in return. They don't require spreadsheets or rules. They live in the way you pause before purchasing, in the way you reflect before agreeing, in the way you give yourself permission to live within what feels manageable rather than what looks impressive. There's wisdom in slowing down decisions, not because you're unsure, but because you're thoughtful. Taking a night to think. Letting the initial urge pass. Often, what felt urgent yesterday feels optional today. And that small pause can protect you more than any complex plan ever could. You might also notice that saving happens naturally when your life feels aligned. When your days are filled with things that nourish you emotionally, the need to fill gaps with spending fades, conversation, routine, familiar places. These things cost very little, yet they carry immense value. It's also okay to acknowledge that some habits were formed during stressful times. Times when spending felt like relief. like control, like a reward for surviving something hard. Letting go of those habits doesn't mean judging yourself. It means honoring what they helped you get through and gently choosing differently now. As time goes on, many people discover that peace of mind grows when life becomes less crowded. Fewer commitments, fewer unnecessary purchases, fewer things to manage. Saving money often follows naturally when you're no longer chasing a feeling you already have. You may find comfort in routines that anchor your days, regular meals, familiar walks, consistent patterns. These routines reduce impulse because they create stability. And stability, more than anything, supports thoughtful choices. There's also something powerful about knowing what is enough for you. Not what others say is enough, not what advertisements suggest, but what truly satisfies you. When you know that, saving stops being a struggle. You're no longer denying yourself. You're choosing yourself. It's worth remembering that adjusting habits later in life is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of awareness. Life changes. Needs change. Values deepen. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to simplify. You're allowed to say, this works for me now. Some days you'll get it right, other days you won't. That's normal. Habits are not about perfection. They're about direction. A gentle leaning toward ease rather than strain, toward clarity rather than confusion. Saving money through simple habits often looks like listening to yourself more closely, noticing when you feel pressured, recognizing when you feel content, trusting those signals. They are quieter than advice, but far more reliable. Over time, these small shifts create a sense of steadiness. You feel less reactive, less rushed, less worried. Not because everything is perfect, but because you feel more in control of your choices. And that feeling matters. You may begin to realize that true security isn't about having more. It's about needing less to feel okay, about knowing you can adapt, about trusting your judgment, about feeling grounded in who you are and how you live. As you move forward, allow yourself patience, allow yourself kindness. You've cared a lot through the years. You deserve habits that support you, not stress you. Choices that feel gentle, not heavy. And perhaps the most important thing to remember is this: you are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be to make thoughtful, caring decisions for the life you're living now. Let your days be quieter. Let your choices be softer. Let your relationship with money reflect the wisdom you've earned. Sometimes the simplest habits are not about doing more, they're about letting go. And in that letting go, you may find a deeper sense of peace than you expected.